Hi, welcome to the small shed for a day over at Moreton in Marsh again with the Austin 7s and a day of coincidence and circularities. I'll see you in a minute. Now, for anyone that's watched some of the videos over the years, you'll know that I just love connections, coincidences, circular tie-ups with things, and I will very often go a long way out of my way to either make them happen or find them. But in this case today, I think we're going to find 3 at least, maybe even 4 over in Moreton in Marsh that tie me into the event, if you like. We can start off with one straight away actually, which has only just occurred, if you like. Today is Friday. I had a day off yesterday because we had other things to do that meant I couldn't get over there. But yesterday was the actual date to 100 years, 21st of July, when Sir Herbert Austin introduced the baby Austin, the Austin 7, to the world at Claridge's in London. And that is why they've organised the event over this week, so that would fall pretty much in the middle. Now, they had a service yesterday at the chapel at the Fire Services College to celebrate the 100-year centenary. And the celebrant, the person that took the service, was the Reverend Gavin Boswell, who you may well have noticed the name from when I was hunting out for Primrose. He is the current custodian of Primrose. So we've already started off on a tack where we've tied into her and the event, if you like. I believe from the Facebook pages that they are now really starting to build on the site now, and there are getting to be an awful lot of 7s there, so I'm going to have a quick look at them today. There is a new pop-up museum that's opened up, and they've brought the twin cam racers over from Prescott to be on display, so there's a little bit more going on there that I want to have a look at. And on the way back, I want to pop into Trington on the way back through, home of my ancestors, and we'll do another couple of quick tie-ins that are, again, coincidences, things that I love. But let's get over there and see what sort of a day we'll have today. Not only on the road on the way in, I've seen 7s from 20 miles away, but just to the general amount that there are on the ground already, how busy it is. So as soon as I got into the entrance area, you could see that they'd got the cars over from Prescott, cleaned them all up in all their splendour, and a couple more of the significant racing 7s from the 30s on display. And then upstairs they had arranged the pop-up exhibition, and this was something that it's difficult to sort of understand really, that this whole thing had been put on by effectively a set of volunteers. It isn't a professional exhibition that's been arranged by a club or anything. It's just all volunteers that have put together this whole thing, and a lot of the preparation you don't think about or you don't see because it just happens, and a lot of the work on the site was obviously helped along by the Fire Services College themselves. But it was seeing this exhibition that made you realise how much effort that they'd put in. There were all of the displays taking the history of the Austin 7 through its career, its lifetime, its racing history. They'd gathered a whole load of artifacts, rare things that you don't see very often, accessories that were period, if you like, and it was just a huge undertaking that has just quietly gone on over the last couple of years without anybody quite realising it. Display cases full of all sorts of memorabilia, and I think I saw it on one of the sites. It was mentioning that you're not going to see this again because the amount of work that's gone into gathering it all together and organising it all, even down to arranging all of the video displays and everything, and all the trophies that they'd got from private collections. They're just not going to happen again. I don't think so. It was a pretty interesting experience, and there was also a lot to learn. You know, you can go on and on with these things, however much you read, however much you know, there is always a huge amount you realise that you just haven't even got a clue about. You've never scratched the surface of knowledge, if you like. So from that point of view it's also interesting, and I had probably 2 or 3 hours in here just taking it all in and studying all the hard work that had gone into it. There was displays on all of the history of all the export cars. They were made by BMW in Germany, they were made by Rosengart in France, Holden's in Australia, Bantam in the USA. So these things got all over the globe, and there were several examples on the site of certainly the Dixies and the Rosengarts from France and Germany. Then back out onto the field to have a look and see what was gathering. All of the vans had been collected into one area, and they'd started to lay all of the cars out into dates and types together. I had a quick look at the auto jumble as well, and again was sorely tempted to buy bits to start doing something, but I resisted the temptation. But again, you've got all the cottage industries that have built up around these things in upholstery and wheel building and things like that. There's pretty much nothing that you can't get from these people in the way of either original or remanufactured bits.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah. Paul can get that.
Right, so that's another brilliant day. The trade sort of auto jumble trade stands were all interesting. the display in the entrance area and the upstairs pop-up exhibition were fantastic. Again, many memories, because it was Longbridge and Alstins, which were right on my doorstep when I grew up. One of the first things that happened when I walked in was that somebody walked up to me and said, "Small shed." A guy called Richard Salter, who is a subscriber and has a 1930 Chummy here. So we'll have a look at that. Very nice car. And we had a chat. Nice to see people that sort of know you virtually and meet up with them in person. We're going on now. It's still relatively early. I still haven't caught up with Primrose's owner. I've put a note on the car so he can ring me as and when, but I won't be back till tomorrow now. But I shall no doubt catch up with him tomorrow. So I'm moving on now to Trington, which is about 8 miles away, and is where all of the family history on my mother's side is. I said I would deal with a few coincidences today. We've already had the coincidence of Gavin Boswell being the guy that did the service for the 100th celebration, and he's the guy who owns Primrose. It was, I suppose, a coincidence that somebody's come up to me that knows me through the channel and also has a 7. But this is now where we really get into it with both the Fire Services College and with Primrose. So we'll pop over to go and have a look at my great-great-great-grandfather's grave on my mother's side, at the church where my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was the verger, I think, and he was the village blacksmith. The Line family were in Trington for, we've got them back to 1700, very early 1700s, so probably before that, right through Victorian 1830s. We've got a sampler in the house done by one of the relatives who was in Trington in 1831, and so there's a lot of family history on my mother's side in Trington, so we'll just pop over there. So here we are in Trington, beautiful little village, and here's the church, St Gregory's, where all my ancestors are buried. Let's go and have a look. So here we are with great-great-great-grandfather's tomb. Now this tomb, I've got pictures of it in black and white from the 1960s and 70s, and this thing was canted over at about 15 or 20 degrees. It looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the reason for that was when they do a second burial in these graves, the vaults, they go in from the side, and if they don't compact the ground properly, it subsides over time, and so it sinks. Now in the 2000s, I think it was, I think it's English Monuments or somebody had put up the funds to straighten this, and what they did, they got a team in from the Fire Services College at Moreton in Marsh, using their airbags to push this thing into the right position and re-level it all. So that's the first connection that is with the family and the fire services college, if you like. And then the second thing, of course, is that this village was the home of my ancestors from the 1700s through to the early 1900s. And this is also where Primrose spent most of her early years. She was registered as to a keeper in Trington. So this is also her hometown. And that original blacksmith was great granddad. So there we are, that's my family connections on my mother's side, back at least as far as the early 1700s into Trington. Connections with Primrose being here from 1930 on, I think, through the war, and the connections with the fire college, who ended up putting up my great grandfather's tombstone straight. So I don't think you can get much more convoluted than that. So on that basis, I'm going to call it a day again. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be doing something very similar, I think. I'll see you then. Bye.